What are you doing to motivate your people to want to change? I was speaking at a conference recently and somebody came up to me afterwards and he asked for some advice. He said, I'm a leader of a team and we just need to change. If we don't change, we're going to lose our jobs. We're all going to lose our jobs, but some people in the team just don't get it. We all need to change or we'll all lose our jobs. And it reminded me of something that happened to me very many years ago when I was very young. I was a manager for the first time. I was about 22 or 23 and I was working for a small software company. And because it was small, people tended to get promoted quickly. And so I became a manager, to be honest, way before I was ready for it. And I was pretty young and naive. I don't think I was a very good first-time manager. I like to think that I learned pretty quickly. But at the time, I wasn't a great manager. But I remember it being in one of these leadership meetings, one of these management meetings, and it seemed that our company was struggling at the time. We had lost a couple of big contracts. We were finding it difficult to get more work, and we had to complete this other big contract that we were working on so that we could move on to something else. And I remember my manager in the meeting, he was one of the senior leaders. He was telling us all that we just need to get people to work harder and, we can't afford to pay them more. We expect them to work longer hours, but we just need to get the message across to them. And I remember saying to him, what do I tell my people? How do I motivate them? And what do I tell them about the need to change? And he said, look, just tell them that if they don't change, they'll lose their jobs. That's all it comes down to. And I thought that wasn't a very motivating thing for me to say. So unfortunately, I had to pass on that message. But it reminded me of this is what's been happening for the last 30 plus years and even longer. There's some people who are trying to motivate their people to change by just offering them the stick without any carrot. So, of course, you probably say that was a bad way to motivate people, and I still think it is. But what's the solution? What's the best way to motivate people to change? Well, the first thing is to recognize that not everybody is motivated by the same things. So my question for you, when I started by saying, what are you doing to motivate your people to want to change? There are two really important parts to that. First of all, it's the last phrase. People want to change. You want people to want to change. In other words, you want them to do it by choice, not because you're beating them with a stick or threatening them with being fired or losing their jobs. The second part of it is that even though I said, how do you motivate people? It's not people as a whole. Everybody has their own reasons for being at work and for doing the work that they do. So if you're asking them to change the work that they do, make sure that it aligns with their reasons and their purpose for being at work. And certainly there are some people who are just there to get a paycheck, to get their salary, to go home, and everything else they do that's fulfilling happens outside work. But then there are other people who are motivated by the work itself, and it almost doesn't matter that they're getting paid, and that just happens to be a bonus. They're doing work that's aligned with their purpose and their passion, and the purpose of their work is also aligned with that. And then there are people everywhere in between those two extremes. So every person has a different reason that they're doing work and has a different motivation to want to change. So if you're involved in any sort of change initiative, if you're trying to get your team to change, my real question for you is, do you know why your people are there? And the change that you're making, how can you link it to the change that they want? It's the change that they want, not just the change that you want. So motivation comes from them, not from you. So I really wonder, if you've got a team of 10 people, of those 10 people, how well do you know the motivation behind each of those people and the reason they're at work? And then, if you know that, then it's easier to look at the change you're making and link it to their motivation, to encourage them to make the change because the change is going to be better for them. Not just for you, not just for the team, not just for the organization, but better for them. And this is part of building a culture of change agents, of making change happen, making change positive, and keeping the change. If you'd like to know more about this, I'm running a free public online presentation very soon about exactly this. I'm calling it Keep the Change because it's about building this culture of change agents. And we look at different levels of change in different people and what you can do to motivate each of them at each level. So it's free, it's public, it's open to everybody. Please register and invite others in your team and your network as well. I'll see you in the future.